Good morning and welcome back. I'm Abby and this is Haymaker Haven Homestead. Today I'm going to be talking all about my homestead goals for the year of 2025. And a lot of these goals are subject to change. If you know anything about homesteading, you know that it's always evolving and growing and changing. So don't be surprised if you see me in a couple months doing something totally different than what I said in these videos. But these are just my general goals. And with that, some of the goals are kind of vague, are more umbrella goals, and then some of them are what I like to call stretch goals. They are goals that are super far out there that I will really have to stretch myself to get to, but I'm also not going to beat myself up if I don't get to them. They are just really big goals. First, I have a couple of just general goals that don't have to do with anything super specific. And before I get into that, you should totally like this video and subscribe to my channel for more homesteading content. The first thing that I want to do is labeling and journaling better. Last year, I had a real problem early on in the season. I did really great at journaling. I wrote down everything that I planted, how many of everything that I planted, but then it just got too much. I planted way too many things, and trying to keep track of all that was kind of a pain, which for last year was fine, but this year I'm really going to be trying to save seeds and collecting data to sort of be able to learn from next year, and my memory won't be great at remembering some of those things, so I'm really going to try and write things down and label plants when they're in the ground so I know what varieties they are. The second thing that I'm really trying to work on is not procrastinating. One of my problems last year was I had this mindset of if I can't get this big project done, I'm not being productive. So I wouldn't get the list of 50 other little projects that needed to be done. And so then finally the big project got done and all the little projects still needed to be done. So I'm really trying to focus and do the things that I need to do the things that I can do during the season. Obviously, I can't really be out there planting in the ground right now, but there are certain things that I can be doing, so trying to make my to-do list around those things. Tell you guys about the big problems and the solutions that I have come up with. I'm open to hearing ideas, but if you watched my video from a couple weeks ago talking about all of my successes and fails from 2024, you will know I had 3 big issues last year, and that was deer, watering, and weeds. First of all, for deer, for the actual garden, I'm going to be planting a lot of border crops, specifically crops that deer don't like, to hopefully repel them. But also, if I'm planting things around the fence, maybe they won't see as much. Last year we had a big issue, they would just jump right over the fence. So another thing that I'm doing is I'm building more raised beds so that there are smaller areas for them to jump over. I noticed that they were jumping over a lot in the upper portion of my garden, and because of that, I'm going to be building more raised beds in there to hopefully get rid of that problem. Another thing that I'm really going to try to do this year is be on top of scaring them out. You really have to run after them to scare them out. So hopefully that will work. And for the orchard, I really don't know what I'm going to do yet. I would love to hear ideas as to how to keep them away. If you have any ideas for the orchard, I would love to hear them down below. At the end of the day, if none of that worked, I will look into getting a deer damage permit. Don't know what that is, look it up. Next is watering. I have a couple different solutions that I'm thinking about. Number one, I might add a water hose adapter. I will put a picture up here of what that looks like. But essentially, it's a piece of a gutter that has a hose that comes off that would go to a barrel or big container. I still need to look in some rainwater catching solutions because I really want to not run up our water bill as much as possible. So having rain barrels installed around the property We also might run a water line from the house down to where the garden is, but that is not totally for sure yet. And the last two things is I'm going to hopefully be adding a sprinkler system into the orchard to water the plants in the orchard, not the trees. And for the actual trees, I have some 5-gallon buckets that I'm going to drill little holes in the bottom of. And then once a week, I will go out and fill up all of the buckets and then let the water drain out of those holes, watering them slowly. The last big problem last year was weeds. And this year, I'm hopefully going to mulch and get on it super early and not let them take over. And then the third thing that I'm going to do is to burn them and not compost them. I don't want to compost them because eventually, if they have weed seeds in them, they will come back. Now, moving on to the garden. I have big goals for my garden this year. One of the things that I'm really trying to work on is succession planting. And to do that, I'm using the website Seed Time. It is super easy. I'm not affiliated with them, but it is completely free and it was super easy to use. All I did was make my garden and then I typed in the crop that I wanted, and Seed Time uses their database to tell you when it should be planted and if you want to do successions, etc. So I did all of that, kind of geeked out on it for a couple hours. And so now I have a really super helpful calendar of when things need to be planted and when they need to be direct sown or sown indoors and then transplanted, all of those things. So Seed Time has been super helpful in that. And I will just show you really quick. I'm not going to go through the entire garden of what it looks like, but I do have my map of my garden that I will show you. It's on this big paper. I always do this just because I think that it's fun. So my garden is a 32 by 64, and this is where the entrance is at the top. I'm thinking about maybe adding a door at the bottom just for easy access from both ends, but these circles here are all tires. These are all different types of mint. And then along the side here, these tires will be potatoes. As borders on both ends or both sides of the garden, I'm going to be growing marigolds, and then on this side, I'm growing nasturtiums actually to climb up the fence. And then mostly around the edges is going to be flowers. So I have sunflowers, snapdragons, milkweed, all of those things. These top two beds here, these are going to be raised beds, and this one is going to be annual herbs. This one's going to be perennial herbs. These 4 beds are also raised beds, and they will have different things in the middle, but the outside will be strawberries. Now I have here, you guys can see it, I have here the 4 big beds, and they both have arch trellises in the middle. If you've seen some of my other videos, you know what my arch trellises look like. So growing lots of things on those. And then I also have beds down here with different things like melons and loofah being grown on the arch trellises down there. And then I have more in-ground beds. These ones are, or more raised beds. These ones are going to be for peppers. And then along the bottom here, I have some in-ground beds that will have zinnias planted in them. A few of my goals for the garden this year, or things that I want to do, is number 1, add composters around the property. So in the orchard, I want to add one next to the chicken coop for chicken poop to go in, and I want to add a couple around the actual garden because our compost bin that we have right now, while it's really nice for throwing food into from the house, it's not really conducive or in a good location for anything else. My other goal, my big goal this year, is to grow all of my own starts. I don't want to have to buy any starting plants from the nursery or farms or anything. I really want to start all of my own plants. Lastly, I really want to plant things out in the garden when they need to be planted. If you want to know why they didn't get planted when they needed to be last year, you can watch that video from a couple weeks ago. But next we will move on to the orchard. So a couple of goals for the orchard. Number one, I'm going to hopefully be growing squash as kind of like a ground cover. I'm probably going to turn over the sod and grow squash in there. I'm really hoping that it will work because it's kind of a total pain to mow the orchard, to mow around all of the trees, prune and fertilize for the first time. I've never done either of those things because I only planted them last year, so I'm hoping to learn how to prune and fertilize my trees. Moving on to the farm stand. Number one, I want to finish building it. There are a few finishing touches that need to happen, but hopefully it will be open by the beginning of May. And my goal is also to make $3,000. Now, I might make way more than that. Hopefully I will, but $3,000 for me, I think, is a realistic goal for the summer. For my bees, if you watched my last video, I realized that my beehive died, which is very sad, but it's a learning opportunity, and I'm going to be expanding my apiary. Hopefully I'm getting 5 or 6 new colonies next year, and then one of my goals is to catch a swarm. So fingers crossed that I will be able to do that. And my 2 honey goals are, number one, extract 5 gallons of honey, and number 2, I want to have enough honey to sell. Now, we have our family that gets honey from us, and I have a few other people that I will gift honey to, but I really want to be able to sell it at the farm stand. Moving on to the chickens, there are just 2 big things with the chickens. One, like I said before, I want to add a composter to just put all their manure into instead of just throwing it into a pile, because it will be easier to then move and use as compost. And the last thing is to fix their food and water system. I have a gutter down there, but I really would like to add an actual rain barrel so that it can be used to water them, not just collect water on the ground. And their food system, I'm looking at some different options for that. Moving on to food preservation, I did this last year, and it was really helpful for me to kind of track and journal my food preservation that I did. Again, I said that I kind of got away from that, but I want to can 400 jars of anything. I'm not saying what size jars, I'm not saying what, I just want to have 400 jars of food canned and on my shelves by the end of summer. Next, I really want to work on reducing food waste. Obviously, I'm always trying to do that, but trying to do different things and more creative ways to reduce the waste of our food, especially if I'm putting in all of the time and effort to grow it myself. I don't want to just be wasting food or even giving it to the chickens. If I've put hours and hours of work and money into this, I want to be able to use the food. Next, during the summer, I want to do 50 batches of freeze-dried food. Hopefully, I'll be able to meet that goal. Right now, our freeze dryer is not working, but I just had to order a part from it, and hopefully it will be back up and running soon. My last food preservation goal is I want to clear out the freezer, our standing freezer that has fruits and veggies in it. I want to clear it out by May so that it can be filled up throughout the summer, and we will have all new food going into the fall and winter. I will also be making a video about that, of the different ways that I am going to be clearing out our freezer. And the last goal that I have is just a list of building projects that I want to do this year. There are a couple small ones, a couple big ones. And the first one is the farm stand. Like I said, I need to finish building it. And then after that, I have two that I got inspiration from Michelle and Cody from More Than Farmers. And that is a cold frame and an herb drying rack. I really would like to build each of those. And then the last three things is I want to build a veggie wash station down here by the house. I want to build more raised beds, and I need to finish our garden fence all the way. So that is all for today. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you will like and subscribe to my channel so that you can see me hopefully accomplish some of these goals. Have a great day. Bye.